If you ever see a town that is not on any map, turn around and drive away. Because I did not. And now I'm not sure I am even alive to tell you this. My name does not matter. What matters is the town called Hollow Creek, a place so small that even my GPS refused to acknowledge it existed. Yet there it was, sitting quietly between two mountains, wrapped in a fog that never lifted, waiting for someone foolish enough to enter. It started on a rainy October night when my car broke down on a lonely highway. I had been driving for hours, chasing a job interview 3 states away, when the engine coughed, sputtered, and died completely, leaving me stranded in the middle of nowhere with no phone signal, and rain pouring down like the sky itself was crying. I walked for almost an hour before I saw a dim light flickering in the distance, a single lamppost glowing weakly through the mist, and beneath it stood a wooden sign, half rotten, with faded letters that read Hollow Creek, population 47. I should have felt relief, but instead a cold weight settled in my chest, a feeling I now understand was my body warning me before my mind could catch up. The town looked frozen in time, old brick buildings with cracked windows, a single gas station with rusted pumps, and streets so quiet that my own footsteps sounded like gunshots. I knocked on the first door I found, and an old woman answered, her eyes pale and clouded, like she had not seen sunlight in years. She smiled at me, but it was not a warm smile. It was the kind of smile you give someone you already know will never leave. She told me her name was Agnes, and she invited me in without asking a single question about who I was or where I came from, which should have been my second warning, but exhaustion and fear of the storm outside made me accept her offer of shelter. Inside, the house smelled like old paper and something faintly metallic, like rust or dried blood, though I told myself it was probably just old pipes. She gave me tea that tasted strange, slightly bitter, and as I drank it, I noticed the walls were covered with photographs, dozens of them, each showing different people standing in front of the same town sign, smiling the exact same hollow smile Agnes had given me. When I asked who they were, she simply said, "They are the ones who stayed," and something about the way she said stayed made my skin crawl. I tried to sleep that night on her creaking couch, but every time I closed my eyes, I heard whispers coming from the walls, soft murmurs that sounded like dozens of voices overlapping, saying the same 3 words over and over. "You cannot leave." I told myself it was the wind. I told myself I was exhausted and dreaming. But when I opened my eyes and looked toward the window, I saw shapes standing outside in the fog. Tall, thin figures with no faces, simply standing there, watching the house, unmoving, like statues carved from the darkness itself. I did not sleep again that night. At dawn, I decided I would leave immediately, car or no car. I would walk until I found civilization again. But when I stepped outside, the fog was thicker than before, and no matter which direction I walked, I somehow ended up back at the same rusted gas station in the center of town. I tried again and again, walking in what I was certain were straight lines, yet every single time, after 20 or 30 minutes, the same cracked pavement and the same flickering lamppost appeared before me, like the town itself was folding space to keep me inside its borders. Panic set in as I ran into the general store, hoping to find a working phone, and there I met a young man named Peter, who looked at me with tired, defeated eyes and said 4 words that chilled me to the bone. "You are trapped too." He told me he had arrived 3 years ago, or at least that was what he believed. Though time moved strangely in Hollow Creek, sometimes days passed like minutes. Sometimes minutes stretched into what felt like weeks. He explained that everyone in town had once been a traveler like me, someone who broke down, someone who got lost, someone who simply wandered too close. And once you crossed into Hollow Creek, the town decided you belonged to it, and it never let go. He said the fog was not ordinary fog, it was alive, a boundary that reshaped the roads and hid the exits, confusing anyone who tried to leave until they eventually gave up and accepted their new home. Just like Agnes had, just like dozens of others whose photographs lined her walls. I refused to believe him, refusing to accept that logic and reason could simply stop working. So I stole a rusted bicycle from behind the store and pedaled as hard as I could toward the tree line, determined to break through the fog by sheer force of will. The trees blurred past me, my legs burned, and for a moment, I actually believed I was escaping, until the fog thickened suddenly, swallowing every sound, and the temperature dropped so fast that my breath turned to frost in front of my face. Then I heard it, the whispering again, closer this time, surrounding me from every direction. Voices that sounded like the townspeople, but layered on top of each other, warning me, welcoming me, pulling me back. When the fog finally cleared, I was standing in the exact center of town again, my bicycle nowhere in sight, my hands scraped and bleeding, though I had no memory of falling. That night, Peter took me to the edge of town, where an old church stood abandoned, its steeple broken, its doors hanging loosely on rusted hinges. Inside, carved into the wooden pews, were names, hundreds of names, dates spanning back over 100 years, proof that people had been disappearing into Hollow Creek since long before either of us were born. He told me the town fed on presence, on belief, on the simple act of staying long enough to accept it as real, and the only way anyone had ever truly escaped, according to whispered legend among the townsfolk, was to leave before the first sunset, before the fog had time to learn your face and your fear. But it was already my second night, and dread crawled through my veins as the sun began sinking behind the mountains, painting the sky in sickly shades of orange and grey. Desperate, I remembered something Agnes had said the night before, that the fog reacts to belief, to how strongly you accept the town as your new reality. So I made a decision that could either save me or destroy me completely. I decided to stop being afraid and instead convince the town, convince the fog itself that I did not belong here, that I was already gone, that this place held no power over me at all. I closed my eyes at the very edge of town, right where the pavement faded into mist, and I whispered to myself, over and over, this town does not exist. I was never here. I'm already home. Repeating it like a chant, ignoring the whispers growing louder around me, ignoring the cold hands I swore I felt brushing against my shoulders, ignoring the faceless figures forming in the fog, just inches from where I stood. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst, but I kept walking forward, one step at a time, refusing to open my eyes, refusing to acknowledge the voices begging me to stay, promising me comfort, promising me family, promising me an eternity of belonging if only I would give in. Just when I thought my legs would collapse beneath me, the whispers suddenly stopped, the cold vanished, and warm night air replaced the icy fog against my skin. I opened my eyes and found myself standing on the same lonely highway where my car had broken down. Except now, it was running perfectly, headlights glowing, engine humming softly as if nothing had ever happened. I did not look back. I did not stop driving until the sun rose fully over the horizon. And even now, months later, I still check the rearview mirror every single night, terrified that one day I will see that same flickering lamppost appearing in the fog behind me, waiting patiently, the way it always has, the way it always will, for the next person who dares to stop in a town that was never supposed to exist. If this story gave you chills, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more terrifying tales, because the next story might be closer to home than you think.